Good morning, and welcome to our regularly scheduled Tuesday RLC Gaming Task Force meeting. Ms. Thurman, would you call the roll?
Chairman Jones,
Here.
Dan Reel,
Here.
Arthur Lawson,
Here.
Baron Fuller,
Here.
Barry Regula,
Here.
Charlie Gardner,
Here.
Christopher Hebert,
Here.
Major Chuck McNeil,
Here.
David Sickey,
I'm here.
Earl Barbary, Michael Lejeune,
I'm here on the phone.
Ned White,
Here.
Roseanne Thompson,
I'm here.
Stan Guidros,
Here.
Dr. Thomas Leviste, Trey Tantillo, Trudy Smith,
Here.
Vincent Schwartz,
I'm here.
and Wade Duty.
I'm here.
Quorum.
Are you still there, Natalie?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good.
I'm here.
I lost you for a minute. Okay, it appears we have a quorum. We may conduct business. First of all, we've posted the necessary certification for lack of a quorum signed by Secretary Pearson pursuant to Governor Edwards' proclamation that we cannot get a quorum together because of the ongoing health crisis and are authorized and permitted to meet in this fashion as a public body. Do I have a motion to waive reading of the minutes of the May 19th meeting?
So moved.
All right. Looks like Art Lawson, and a second by
Second.
Barry. We got a second by Barry. Is there any objection? Without objection, motion carries. The minutes are adopted. So it looks like we've been mostly up and running for nearly a week, folks, and I'm getting good reports. I think most of the 20 casinos, the majority, have opened. And a good number of the truck stops and other video poker locations. So just I'd like to go around and call on you and just get kind of a report from your area as to what's maybe not open, and in particular, are we seeing any problems either with patrons? Are we seeing any capacity issues? Anything that we need to be aware of that might influence where we might go with any future recommendations as perhaps we're hopeful in moving into phase 2. Wade, you want to start off?
Sure. With respect to the casinos, as you're aware, I think most other folks on the call are aware, Diamond Jacks did not reopen for a combination of circumstances, including the virus issue. With respect to the casinos that did open, we're not hearing of any systemic problems. Patrons are more cooperative than expected as far as the temperature screenings. Mask utilization is something that we've been tracking closely, and it is declining with respect to the patrons as far as even that masks that are offered. So I think earlier concerns about burning through capacity are not materializing that we were watching. And I think with respect to phase 2, we're discovering that the rejection rate, even when offered a mask, is fairly high. So and unless it becomes a gubernatorial order mandating the wear of masks in public for all citizens, we may want to revisit that and the offering portion of it, because less than half are taking it when offered. So outside of that, I think staffing remains a concern, but not necessarily an issue at this point. We're working with some of the properties relative to 3 different groupings of employees for their permits, those who are, not likely to be called back, but will have a permit expiring soon, before we actually call them back, how to handle them, and whether there may be some way to get them a grace period, but I'm thinking that may not be likely under the statute. So outside of that, I don't think we have anything else.
Okay. With respect to the mask, I think at least through phase one, we need to continue to offer that and encourage it. I know the governor was adamant about that, and I know that Dr. Levis was my consultation with him was also supportive of at least offering the mask, although we may not require it of customers, and the signage encouraging them to do that. I think if nothing else, it helps create this sense of the property owners attempting to create the safest environment possible. So I'd heard the same thing. There's some erosion in the numbers of customers who, for the first day, a lot were wearing them, and it's fallen off a little bit as they get a little more comfortable in getting out and moving around. I think that's part of it. Vincent, how are things with Boyd?
Actually, things went well. We experienced about the same that the other folks had, and with the other openings. So business was okay. It could always be better, but generally speaking, it was what the rest of the folks had expressed in some of the earlier openings. No problem to speak of. Guests are typically accepting of the process that we've employed. So generally speaking, it's going pretty well, and we're happy to be back in business and become more open in the coming days.
We're getting some feedback, Vincent. If everyone, make sure unless you're speaking, make sure your microphone is muted. We might can reduce the feedback we're getting. How about just still there?
It says Mississippi Wi-Fi.
Samstown and Amelia Bell, Vincent, what does it look like they're coming up? Vincent. I'm not reading you, Apollo. We'll move on. Baron, how about things on the Penn side?
Yeah, just kind of echoing what Wade and Vincent said. Safety protocol, I think protocol laid out by you, Mr. Chairman, this task force and LSP. I think we did a good job preparing on the front side of it. Customers have been more than receptive with the temperature checking. More often than not, a customer has their own mask. I think they feel comfortable with that. All in pretty good. We didn't open a lot of food and beverage outlets in anticipation to get our doors open, understand what the needs were, and get past the holiday weekend. I think we learned a lot over the holiday weekend. Number one, I guess we're very receptive with the mask and with the protocol. So as we move forward to look at opening up different venues and things like that, I think we're well positioned. So nice to get the holiday weekend behind us to understand what the learning environment of that was, but all in a good success from our 3 operations in Louisiana.
Great. Barry, anything in particular, Bossier City?
Oh, Bossier, as everyone has said, I echo the fact that we really appreciate our guests working with us and cooperating with the social distancing parameters and the temperature checks and the various things that we're doing, encouraging mask use. I think we're still maybe dropping off a little bit on the mask usage. Like you said, day one, it was probably 50-50, and maybe now it's 1 out of 3. A few less people accepting the masks that we offer. But all in all, spirits are high amongst team members and the guests coming in. We were very busy, but we never did hit our cap. So we were happy with that. And all in all, very encouraging. As others have said, we were a little undergunned and overwhelmed. And we saw some times when we ran out of $100 bills and we had to scramble with some emergency drops to handle all the transactions. But all in all, it's been very good and very positive.
I guess that's a good problem to have, huh?
That is a good problem. And I can't express enough how well the division has worked with us on licensing and with these emergency drops and all the challenges. The division has been extremely accommodating, and I can't thank them enough for their work on this.
Great. Always glad to hear that. Roseanne, I know you're not working the gaming floor, but what are you seeing and hearing back at the Golden Nugget in Lake Charles? Are you there, Roseanne?
I am now.
So
We did have some capacity issues this weekend with lines, pretty constant in the evenings trying to get on the casino floor. So we definitely hit our capacity. We also had some cash issues in that our projections were much lower than what actually occurred. So we, had some challenges Friday getting enough cash for the weekend, but we did make it through. The same thing everybody else is saying about the guests and masks. We did have some employees that want to wear the face shields instead of the masks. And so we have made a couple medical accommodations for that they brought something from their doctor. But we're thinking of allowing the cocktail servers, especially carrying those full trays back and forth. They're finding it challenging and sweating and everything like that. So we're considering letting them use the face shields as well.
that's good. I mean, we realize there's going to have to be some accommodation as we work through the new guidelines. And I just heard some anecdotal information about that. You kind of confirmed it. To the best of your knowledge, once the casino got close to capacity, were they managing the people waiting to get in? Okay.
Oh yeah, we already had prepared for that. So we had marks on the floor, like little circles that people should stand in. So, and we had it mapped out and stanchioned off. So we were prepared for that. It's just, I didn't think we expected to hit it with as long of a line as we had, but they were definitely social distanced and, people were understanding, I guess. Of course you always have some that will complain, but it wasn't like pre-pandemic. If we had lines like that, we'd never hear the end of it, but they were pretty accommodating.
I think everybody understands it's a little different now, and they accept that when they come to the property. So that's encouraging. It's encouraging. I mean, all of our concerns early on were, if we make it through the first 3 or 4 challenges and finally get open, will the customers come back? And the fact that they are, I think, is encouraging for the industry across the board. Let's talk a little bit about video poker, and kind of the reports we were getting last week were very positive, at least with respect to the truck stop casinos. Stan, what are you seeing and what are you hearing?
Again, I'm not aware of any that have not opened. Major McNeil or maybe the state police might have a better grip on that based on the machines that are up. But we're seeing the same thing with regards to masks that's been said earlier. Friday and Saturday were capacity only, at least at our stores. I think most others around us, same thing. Guests have been very compliant once they're inside the room. The social distancing, waiting line, not so much. They tend to have to wait outside or in their cars. Normally we see them go elsewhere. They'll wait around for a minute or two and then they'll drive off, but it's keeping everybody else busy. It'll be interesting to see how the rest of the week pans out with regards to cabin fever from last week. But we were very busy over the weekend.
Good, that's good. Art, what about the South Shore?
Chairman, basically the same thing. The customers are very compliant, very understanding. We as well hit capacity over the weekend a few times, and the Those who wanted to wait sat in their vehicle, waited to get in. Others, as Stan said, drove off and went somewhere else maybe. But as far as the operating procedures and everything's going fine, the masks that we're finding the same thing. Some come with their own mask, others, choose not to wear it. But everyone's been very compliant, and it seems to be working very well. And again, state police has been excellent to help us get to this point. I appreciate it.
Great. Ned, what about up in your corner of the state?
Everything seems to be going about the same. I think we'll probably be down to 70% of people actually wearing masks. We're still offering them at the door. Everybody's upbeat. They understand what's going on. We had a few still coming last week that didn't understand, why we had to ask the questions, take the temperature. But for the most part, everything's good. The only thing I will say has been kind of light is the live call bingo. We're having issues with people showing up on that for some reason. I don't know if it's still fear or what, but that's something that we need to try to figure out and get past. So other than that, everything's going great. No complaints.
That's good. We're still in a transition period, so things really haven't settled. I don't think like they're going to. Trey, is Trey on with us? I didn't hear him. Okay. Mike Lejeune, what about your sector?
Can everybody, am I on now?
Yeah.
I'm still having technical difficulties.
That's
over
okay.
Here. We had about 24 charitable gaming sites that applied to open last week, and out of those 24, only 22 open. For the other two did not open for various reasons. But just ditto everybody. I mean, the patrons seem to be in compliance. As Ned said, the live bingo, it's required to have 10 call bingos or at least 5 call bingos now. And for the smaller halls, the video bingo halls, we're having issues with 1 or 2 or maybe 3 people showing up for the live bingo. On the traditional halls, the bigger halls, they're having issues with light attendance on their bingos. But they usually have 75, 80 people, but now they're down to 30 or 40, and then they're just not able to make a lot of money with that. So they're having issues with low attendance on bingos on both of those. And we've had about 10 more applications this week that plan to open, and we're going to be doing inspections all this week as well.
Great. Dan, I don't want to put you on the spot too much, but are you getting any sense, any communication from the city on the mayor's office when they might open up things in Orleans Parish?
We're going to have a conversation this week, and I hope we have a chance to sit down and go through our plan in detail. But as far as a timeline goes, nothing has been offered. But I had a good conversation with the mayor personally last week, and she offered to meet with us this upcoming week and sit down and talk through our health and safety plans.
Great. Major McNeil, did you want to talk about any problems that your field guys are having or contribute to any of this?
No, sir. We've had nothing reported to us. Everything's been going smoothly so far. So no complaints that I've been told of. So everything's going good.
Good. All good reports. Glad to hear that the businesses are turning. That's great for the state. Great for you guys. As part of our charge from the RLC oversight group, we did what we were supposed to do for phase 1, and now we're supposed to focus in phase 2 on sort of laying out a plan in terms of recommendations on where gaming should go in the future in terms of protecting it as an industry, permitting growth in the industry, and promoting economic development. So I asked Wade to offer up the first set of recommendations as they apply to the casino side. And I copied all of you on what he provided me yesterday. So I'm going to turn things over to Wade, let him take each one of the recommendations, kind of give you the background and context on them. And as we go through them, those of you who have questions, please raise them at the time. So Wade, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mindful that these are not in the format that the RLC provided after we had begun compiling this, we can certainly pound it into that format. But this is a little more digestible, I think, the way it's currently written. But I understand their purpose for compiling the data that way across the multiple sectors. So we will make that happen for these that become recommendations. The first one is one that's actually gotten some traction in past years, but never gone the distance, and that's the subject of promotional or free play. For those of you not in the casino industry, if a casino sends out an offer to a prospective or existing player, that is not an actual cash instrument. The player comes in, redeems that. We pay the state of Louisiana 21.5% of the value of that non-cash instrument. So in other words, it's taxed like revenue, even though it's not revenue. Accordingly, though it's our most efficient tool, it's also most expensive marketing tool. And in comparison with other jurisdictions like Mississippi and Arkansas, they do not tax this marketing instrument. So we would ask that the state of Louisiana forego the taxation of that, with the industry acknowledgement that greater utilization will produce more new dollars that are taxed at the traditional state gaming rate of 21.5%. Spectrum Gaming did a study at the request of the Department of Economic Development in 2018, and using the Louisiana numbers at the time, they actually project an $11 million increase in state gaming taxes if the state were to allow greater utilization of this product. So that's kind of the promo credit thing in a nutshell. If there are questions, I'll pause. I don't know how you would like to handle that. Okay.
One quick question. Does this recommendation apply just to gaming free play? Because I know that casinos provide free rooms and free meals. This is just for the gaming piece?
This is just for the gaming piece. We do have a separate issue with respect to rooms, and that is not included in this. And it's something that we probably want to consider including. It's not in this list of 7. There's some ongoing litigation over that issue, and there is much discussion happening outside of my realm of influence on that. So I don't know where we're going to land on that one, but it's certainly a concern to the industry that that again is not a standardized practice nationally to tax things that we don't make revenue on. For those of you again not in this world, think of it this way: if you get a coupon for a 2-for-1 can of green beans at the grocery store, when you pick up your 2 cans of green beans, the grocery store would pay sales taxes on the free can they're giving you. That's the analogy. So it's taxation on not revenue, which is kind of weird. But so anyway, this as currently proposed is limited just to the promotional credits. And as you saw with the respect to the special session, which will start June 1st, this is one of the elements in the special session call.
I saw that. Any other questions on the promotional credit for free play from the group? Please proceed, Wade.
All right, the second issue is sports wagering. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I think roughly 14 other states presently have sports wagering. Another 5 have authorized it but haven't implemented it because of virus delays. Another 15 or 16 are considering it. Clearly, it's something Mississippi has had offered now for 2 years, and by the time we finish flailing around legislatively, they'll have had it for 3 years, maybe 4 years. So it is a legislative instrument that is in play this session. It has 3 bills that would authorize just the November 3rd election. The legislation does not describe any regulatory framework or taxation, participants, or format. So it's just a vote of the people, thumbs up, thumbs down. Do you like the idea on a parish by parish basis? It is not a windfall for any operator, and it comes with some baggage, but it is seen as an amenity, and it's seen as a customer expectation. And frankly, if you're serious about trying to take a bite out of illegal sports wagering, this is the only mechanism you can do it. You've got to provide people with a regulated alternative that they can have confidence in, that they're going to get paid if they place an appropriate wager. this is one tool to do that, but it does come with some baggage. Operators need to be mindful that you've got a lot of compliance issues that come with this as well. So that's really sports wagering as it's proposed right now, which is not much more than the legislation in the 2020 regular session.
Any questions on sports wagering from the task force? I do not believe this was in the special call either, was it, Wade?
It is not. This
Okay.
is, that's why I said we got a little bit further to go. But again, assuming, and I get it from a political standpoint, a vote of the people in your hand is a tremendous reassurance that legislators are on the right track. We are anticipating that the sports wagering vote, if the present legislation gets us to that point, will track very similar to daily fantasy sports. And frankly, many people think they've already voted on this issue when they voted on the daily fantasy sports. So we're expecting probably a 2/3 acceptance rate. We don't anticipate that it will be in all 64 parishes, but it's something that we think will track prior to the previous vote.
Great. Okay. What about iGaming?
iGaming. This is a concept that is recognizing the shift in player demand. If you're in the 25 to 40 age bracket, you really are a new animal for casino industries, and the preference for conducting both personal and business affairs online is a greater part of their life than, for example, mine or some of the other folks on this call. So not only from a virus or natural disaster standpoint, but also just a shift in player demand. iGaming is gaining traction nationally. It is a product that New Jersey has had operational since 2013. And I've included some revenue information in there from the virus shutdown period, basically to demonstrate to the state that this is a product that would continue to be a predictable revenue stream for the state when your brick and mortar casinos are shuttered by hurricanes, floods, fires, meteor strikes, or all the other things that we deal with. So again, it's not something that there's legislation pending for on this element. This is a new animal, but it is a format that is regulated by New Jersey's Gaming Commission. It is at a tax rate that is sustainable. It is not a fantasy tax rate of 35% or something like that. And it's been a good performer for New Jersey and Pennsylvania, which are probably the two more mature markets to offer the product.
I saw last week that my good friend and co-regulator in New Jersey, Dave Rebuck, sort of pushed back against some of the criticism that New Jersey continued to get over iGaming and the issue of compulsive gambling. And he stated what we all know, that they know a lot more about people who are iGaming than they do someone walking onto a casino floor, and can better address that issue.
Absolutely. A cash player who does not interact and does not trigger any of the withholding thresholds acts with a degree of anonymity. So anybody that's iGaming or sports wagering does so through an account, and that account is monitored. Every transaction, betting habits, frequency, location, all of that is compiled, collected, and analyzed. So yeah, the patterns and the spending habits, and again, the ability to screen out compulsive gamblers. We match against the list. If you're on the list, your account's deactivated. So it's a pretty straightforward management tool.
And I think the other thing that you pointed out, and the research tends to support it, is that even with iGaming, there's no erosion in the brick and mortar facilities. And you're not cut, because the people who are iGaming aren't always the ones who are going to go to a facility anyway.
Absolutely, and that tracks back to what I began with in this segment, that I don't get it necessarily, but I'm a dinosaur. So but for again the 25 to 40 to 45 age group, they would prefer to not necessarily interact in person, not necessarily visit a brick and mortar facility, but still enjoy the activity. And we've seen that brand identification through iGaming platforms does have some actual feedback effect to brick and mortar. So instead of cannibalizing it, it actually does help bolster it. But that was the big what if when they brought this online in 2013. Are you going to gut your brick and mortars? And the answer came back no. So any questions with respect to that?
Task force? Any issues? Okay, let's go on to regulatory staffing levels.
This is one that also Spectrum Gaming touched on, and it's kind of weird when the industry says, "Hey, we need more regulators," but this is a problem that is fluctuated, and I get it's something that LSP has struggled to address, and they kind of have a problem that public sector versus private sector employment has always struggled with. Retention of people who are knowledgeable and competent at the pay scales available to state employment are not always commensurate with what the private sector can offer. So our lingering problem and kind of the poster child for it has been the Southwest Louisiana market. You have numerous tasks that are necessary when bringing games back online after service or putting new games in service or doing machine moves. This is verification of software or chips or the old taping of chips. In many jurisdictions, this is actually handled by the casinos, and it's subject to spot checks and audits by the regulators and also through the computer management systems for the slot systems. And they have a degree of confidence in those systems. We still are using a model that's much more personnel dependent. And as a result, we schedule machine moves around the once every 10-day or 14-day availability of a technician, which means machines are offline, which means both the revenue potential for the operator and the state are being impacted. The alternative for the casino is to pay a third-party inspector, traditionally GLI, to perform those functions. So we would respectfully suggest and request either considering adoption of a model, and I know there was a pilot program put in place at one of the Lake Charles casinos to do self-taping and the self-monitoring. I don't know the results of that. This tracks back to when Lieutenant Colonel Noel was, I think, Sergeant Noel. No, not that far back, but anyway, it is done in other states, and it's certainly something we would ask to be revisited here. Alternatively, we either ask for additional staffing or a shift away from that tasking and let the casinos assume that burden, subject obviously to regulatory oversight.
Major McNeil. Major.
Yes, sir.
Yes, okay. Has the authorized complement of gaming increased since you've been over the division?
Is the what, sir? I'm sorry?
The authorized complement. Do you have the same number of people now that you had when you started, or do you have more?
I have less.
You have less. Okay.
And that's because of retiring in trooper positions, as you well know, with no academies.
Right, I understand. I mean, we had been on track for another academy until all this came crashing down on us.
Yes, sir.
The way the first three appear to be legislative issues, and this obviously is a regulatory issue that could be resolved by the executive branch and by state police. I mean, ultimately, the legislature might have to provide money for positions if it's new positions, but state police does have the latitude internally to move positions around from one program to another. And so we would offer it that way when we get to the point of offering a recommendation that, it's not something that necessarily needs to go before the legislative body.
Absolutely.
Are there any questions on staffing? Art, I saw you shaking your head up and down when we were talking about this. Same kind of issues in video poker?
Pretty much the same, and being able to, naturally get the applications processed, get 3 machine locations online, getting machines, whether being moved or whatever, we're running into some of that as well.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on the staffing issue? Okay, let's move on to the next one, Wade.
All right, this was something that was distinctly highlighted with respect to the virus situation, and that is cashless wagering has been a proven platform in the retail market now for over 5 years, 6 years. It is certainly something that's now actively encouraged. This is avoiding the handling of hard items or paper items between employees and customers. The previous pushback that we have seen in this area is, again, along concerns of compulsive gaming, but returning to New Jersey's experience, if you create a cashless wagering account, you again are capturing much more data about that prospective player than you would an actual cash wagering player. So we think that the environment is right from a technology standpoint. We think the environment is right from a customer acceptance standpoint. And there is, certainly evidence that safeguards are enhanced through this mechanism as opposed to conventional cash wagering. So that would be a proposal. Currently, this is a prohibited methodology in Louisiana with respect to gaming and would take a legislative fix.
Where are the other jurisdictions on this, Wade?
I don't have a good comparison. I would need to provide that. So I need to do a little homework on that one. But it's I suspect New Jersey and Pennsylvania, but I don't have confirmation on that.
I do know that the American Gaming Association, this was one of their 3 priorities that they began pushing near the first of the year, as I recall. And in view of what we've just been through over the last 2 months, it certainly makes sense. I understand the legislative reluctance as well. I've heard that those arguments from some legislators. So, but I think, I think this does make good sense, particularly since where we've been. Any comments or questions on that proposal?
I would just like to second that, Mr. Chairman, and state that depending on how long it takes, I think it's only a matter of time that this becomes more of a norm. And hopefully we do, Wade, get a little bit more exposure to the precedent areas of the states that are using this and using it successfully. I think that's going to be the key within the state of Louisiana to get some momentum going in this area.
Good, thank you. Any other comment or question? Okay, tort claims.
This one is a cross-sector concern, and there is legislation making its way through the Louisiana system at present. It's a Senate bill, and I'm drawing a blank. I think it's 457 maybe. It's gone about 2/3 of the way, and it does provide for a degree of immunity if the entity that is in question is following governmental guidelines. They would have a degree of immunity from virus-related claims during the duration of the event from both customers and employees. This is something also that's getting a lot of national attention, and you'll likely see a bill introduced at the federal level. The AGA has been working to produce that bill, and I think everybody from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce down through Joe's Dog Grooming Salon has joined on that. So it's a multiple sector. Petrochemical industry is going to face the same thing. You've got a lot of employees. So this one has a lot of business support, and it's really pretty simple. If we're following the best available science and guidelines, and we're giving it our best effort, it is not reasonable to still hold people accountable for virus-related issues, particularly when your plaintiff would have exposure from the grocery store, from Walmart, from the auto parts store, from anywhere else they may have traveled. So unless it's something like a signature cancer that you can only get from a certain facility on this planet, tort immunity is appropriate in this circumstance.
I stand squarely with dog grooming salons, okay? I mean, this is something that applies to everybody on the task force. I mean, it's a business issue, and it's currently being, sorted out in the legislative process. But I think it's appropriate that we bring it to their attention, and it's on our agenda in terms of recommendations. I appreciate you offering that. Any other comment or question on tort? Okay, we'll move to your last issue, tax offsets.
The best for last. So, you know, as many other industries have enjoyed for decades in this state, we would ask for participation in not only rehabilitative programs that are being extended to other industries as far as job creation tax credits, job retention tax credits, but also capital investment credits. You know, we are shut out by statute of the Quality Jobs Bill, despite the fact that we have many jobs that would otherwise qualify, simply because we are a Title 27, we are a gaming entity. There's nothing wrong with those jobs. They're good paying jobs. They have benefits. They're the kind of jobs that the legislature said in 1992 it wanted brought to Louisiana, and we brought them. And then the legislature said, well, no, but you're still gaming, so no can do. So we would ask for a revisit of that thinking that this industry has been a consistent and stable contributor to the economic revenue of Louisiana for a long time, and we have not taken the industry. I'm sorry, we're not taking the state on that roller coaster ride of revenue that oil and gas has experienced. You know, when you can fill your car up at $1.40 a gallon, it's getting pretty ugly in petrochemical world. So we will bounce back from this virus issue with respect to gaming, and we will return to a stable revenue source for the state. But the fact that the state of Louisiana is the largest partner, because their money comes off the top before any other expense is paid, it's a really simple model. If we do well, then the state does well. So we would ask for equal treatment and equal participation in any tax programs that are extended to other industries. And then specifically, we've detailed, and obviously when we put this into the RLC format, we'll flesh these out more, but you need to be mindful, and I say you, I mean that in the sense of legislative policymakers and executive branch policymakers. Corporations are multi-state, and when you've got a neighbor next door taxing your gaming revenue at 8%, and Louisiana is taxing at 21.5% and excluding you from all tax offsets, rebates, you spend $1 billion on your property and you participate in no tax incentives. That makes a very tough argument in a boardroom to continue to allocate capital resources to Louisiana. You literally are pricing yourselves out of the market. So it's not a foreign concept, and it's aggressively extended to other industries, and we would just ask for equal participation.
You make a great point, and I don't want to pick on Allen Godfrey, Mississippi, but the fact is they are our neighbors, and they have some benefits in the industry that we don't enjoy in Louisiana. And as one CEO put it to me, he said, why would I make an investment in Louisiana when I can invest in my property in Mississippi and get a better return on that investment? It's just a business decision. You know, we like Louisiana, but it's just more costly to do business there. And I think that's something that this task force needs to sort of put out there so that everybody begins to understand the industry pays a higher tax rate than any other industry in the state. It is more highly regulated than any other industry in the state. And it is consistently prevented from participating in any of the benefits that are extended to other industries. And I'm hopeful that one of the things that has come out of this public health crisis is this task force and the opportunity to communicate that and share that message. I think it's vitally important. Any comment or question on Wade's final proposal? No one? Just in terms of parliamentary logistics here, would the task force be agreeable to entertaining a motion to adopt the casino recommendations as part of our final report to the RLC oversight body? Any discussion of that? Is that your inclination?
Yes.
It's not working, Vincent. I'm sorry.
You need to move out of the bunker.
I would say yes, Mr. Chairman. I think that would be a good way to move forward.
I would concur. I agree.
Okay.
Agree.
Does someone want to offer the motion to adopt those 7 casino recommendations on behalf of the task force? We'll have that motion.
I'll make the motion to adopt the recommendations.
Okay, we've got it by Baron. We have a second.
I'll second.
We've got a second by Dan Reel. Is there any opposition to the motion to adopt the 7 recommendations from the casino sector to be part of our final report to the RLC? No objection, no further discussion, then the motion is successful. Thank you for that. That's, Wade, I would ask, I've asked my vice chair, Dan, to sort of coordinate shoehorning our recommendations into the final format for the RLC. And Dan has graciously agreed to work to try and help you guys do that. So I'm not just throwing you out there, Dan. We talked about this, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So having successfully accomplished that, and there's going to be some overlap. You know, we're going to ask Stan and Art and their colleagues on behalf of Video Poker to come up with similar recommendations for the video poker side, and some of this stuff applies to them. And you guys have endorsed it with your vote this morning. So what I'm looking for in our next week's meeting, Stan, is for you guys to come up with things that are particular and peculiar to your industry that perhaps doesn't apply to the casino industry. So the same sort of thing we'll entertain next week. So from a housekeeping standpoint, we'll have at least 2 more meetings. We'll have the video poker recommendations next week and the charitable gaming recommendations in that final week. And as we pursue a final report, I feel very comfortable with the work that you guys have done. I know I'm taking an hour out of your life every day that you will never get back, every day that we meet, and I appreciate that. I appreciate your work, and I know that you all have other business to take care of other than this task force. So I'm not insensitive to that at all, and I really appreciate what you're doing for the industry. At this time, I would ask if there's any public comment from anyone. Give you an opportunity. I hear no one. I think there was one comment on the chat board. We're trying to reach out to them and get follow-up information back to them. There being no other business, I will accept a motion to adjourn this meeting and reconvene next Tuesday morning. Do I have a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
By Wade, second.
I'll second.
Got Art. Any objection? Without objection, we'll stand adjourned. Thanks, folks. I appreciate your work.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.